Hey, welcome to Breaking the News Plus on this Monday night, where we Monday night quarterback the events of Sunday afternoon. And to do that with me today, Michael Rand from the Star Tribune sports team. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. How are you?
I'm well. I'm probably better than some Vikings fans, and your Vikings staff each had a hot take. Most of it focused on a young 22-year-old quarterback named J.J. McCarthy. Half of the fan base says, put him on the next plane out of here. The other half says, you don't know football, give him time. So what do you say?
Both things can be true, right? I think what one of my big takeaways from watching that game and from was kind of watching the reaction in real time was that there's a lot of different takes, and I don't think anybody's wrong at this point, because I think a lot of what you saw Sunday was concerning enough that you're like, what's going on here? Like, the things that he's not doing well feel like things that he should be doing better at this moment. Whereas some of the things you might not expect him to be good at yet, he's kind of pretty good at, like clutch play, things like that, like fourth quarter comebacks. Like, that usually comes with experience. So it's confusing. What I did notice was that this is game 5. So it's kind of like it's still very early, but if he's 2-2 going into this game, this is kind of like a tiebreaker if you were kind of on the fence with what you thought of him. I think he lost, at least temporarily, he lost some of the optimists that were in his corner in this game. And not like he can't get him back, but I think people saw enough of like, what was that throw? What was this throw? What's going on here to be worried about him?
You, in your column, pointed out some visuals of frustration. And as you mentioned in your column, it's easy to see when you're watching the game, at least from home on a television, these shots of other players or of JJ, or of coaches, just visibly mad. Things are not going well.
Yeah, and I don't think that's an effort thing. And, listening back to what Kevin O'Connell had to say Monday, I generally agree with, you don't look at this team and think the effort isn't there. You just look at it and say they're more talented than they're really showing. And he said something interesting in the middle of kind of his press briefing Monday, where it's like he was talking specifically, I think, about the kick return that went off kilter at the end of that game and really did end up costing them the game, because the Bears get great field position, kick the field goal. He said a couple guys kind of got out of their lane, like they're wanting so badly to win that they're maybe trying to make the hero play instead of understanding the assignment. And he said, I think that's going on with our team in multiple ways. I don't know if he's extrapolating that out to McCarthy or anybody like that, but I do feel like that's a problem with this team more than effort. So I think when you take that, you say the frustration is they think they're better than this. I think if they had gotten better quarterback play so far this season, they'd have a better record. I think they knew there'd be growing pains with McCarthy, but I think maybe they thought things would look a little bit better at this moment too. So O'Connell's frustrated because they're losing and that play happens at the end of the game. Justin Jefferson's frustrated because he's not catching as many passes. He misses one that he thinks he could have had, even though it's a tough catch. J.J. McCarthy is frustrated because they get a false start, and then he airmails a throw about 10 feet over Justin Jefferson. He's getting booed. Like, a lot of frustrating things. And again, I don't think it's frustration necessarily over anything more than we want to be better than this, but when you're not, that's frustrating.
When you have someone like a J.J. McCarthy, 22 years old, he should have played last year, but he got injured, so this is really his first year. At 5 games in, do you expect him to be better, or is this par for the course, even for a sought-after quarterback like McCarthy?
Like I said at the beginning, I'm surprised at some of the things he's struggling at, because they seem kind of basic, like footwork type stuff. It's not so much that he seems to be struggling through like his progressions of which receiver to go to. He's not struggling with some of the mental aspects of the game. It really does seem like he gets a little sped up, or he loses sight of some of his very basic, mechanics or footwork, and that's causing some of these passes to fly in places that they shouldn't. Now, you can say maybe that's good. Maybe that feels more correctable than some sort of other deficit. So I do feel like that's maybe heartening if you're going to look at the long game here. But I thought just, if you take his very first performance of the year in Chicago, I think that still probably stands out, even though he struggled for some of those early moments. I still think that's probably is his best game. And so you want to see progress, even if you understand that progress isn't always linear. And I do feel like I thought he would be a little bit more polished in this moment, not just because, it is only 5 games into his career, but this is 1.5 years into his career. You think, okay, he learned something sitting out last season. He learned while he was injured that he could translate onto the field. And I think what you're seeing is there's really no substitute for game experience.
Right. And when you hear from Justin Jefferson, or not Justin Jefferson, excuse me, from J.J. McCarthy, it strikes me as he is it's seemingly wise beyond his 22 years. He's well-spoken. He seems to take responsibility very well. He even commented after this game about getting booed out of U.S. Bank, taking the blame fully on himself. So he seems to, in his head, understand it. But on the field, it's almost like this nervousness, or the yips, as they call it. Like, what is happening? His talent is being morphed into the Stranger Things underground.
Yeah, I don't know, right? He's a confusing player right now, and I think he's a confused player to a certain degree. Like I said, he's very young, but the intangible qualities seem ahead of the physical gifts right now, and usually that's opposite, right? Usually, if someone is going to be, unpolished, it's going to be, you're going to see these flashes of just athletic brilliance, and you do see that from him. He's made some very good throws this year, but I think the best parts of his game right now are probably his intangibles, his ability to lead, his ability to kind of shake off negative plays, his ability to get them into the right play, his ability to be good and be his best in the clutch. So I don't know what's happening in these other reps, and I think that Kevin O'Connell's a little confused too, because he said it looks good in practice. So there's something about what happens in the game, whether it's he got, some early pressure in some of these earlier games he was playing in, and now he's a little bit, okay, where am I going to feel this pressure from? The NFL game is just faster. At Michigan, he was asked to do things, but that was a team with a dominant defense and a dominant running game. He didn't always have to carry things throughout the game. He could maybe pick his spots and be brilliant in those moments where he shines. So maybe he's learning it's not just the speed of the game, but having to be on point for so much time. I think he's just in the middle of a learning curve that's pretty steep. The intangibles make you think he can get there, but it is confusing in this moment why he's maybe not further along.
The fans are booing JJ. Some, again, seem very frustrated, and they say, just put in Brosmer. But to me, that doesn't eliminate the issue that JJ is still our starting quarterback. I don't know that putting Brosmer in is a good idea. What do you think?
I was wondering if they might try that yesterday, just because that was they were still in a moment where a result was just as important in the short term as McCarthy's development is in the long term. They were 4-5. If you win that game, which they almost did, they kept McCarthy in. They come back. They actually take a lead before the game-winning field goal. They win that game. They're 5-5. They're 3-0 in the division. They still have a chance to make the playoffs. Maybe it's not a great chance, but they're still in the mix. Now they're 4-6. So paradoxically, it's like now that they lost that game, there's more incentive to play McCarthy. That might be a paradox, because it's like, well, he keeps losing. Why do they keep playing him? Well, I feel like now the season is being given over to, they still want to win, but they can really dial in and dig into his development now, as opposed to trying to serve a dual mission of, hey, can we make the playoffs? Can we go on a run? Is this a team stacked with veterans that can do something? They might still, harbor some sort of, great outside hope. Hey, what if we win our last 7 games? Then we're going to make the playoffs. But it's a long shot at this point. They really have to dig into his development now. So I do feel like there is this kind of sentiment of, if something was going to happen, maybe it was yesterday. But Brosmer is, he's an undrafted rookie. He's got even less experience than J.J. McCarthy. This isn't like they're turning things over to, what if Carson Wentz was still here? Maybe they'd be more tempted to try to turn to a veteran for a quarter to try to win a game. Now I think it's McCarthy riding it out for the rest of the season as long as he's healthy.
So that's really my last question. What does that look like? So if you are coaching the Vikings right now, if you're Kevin O'Connell or your leadership and you're JJ, how do you convey to the team what you want? Because I think, Coach Reeve always told me, we want to win. We're not trying to get a draft pick.
Yeah.
You want to win out. You want to win every time you take the field. So I assume that's the mentality with the team going forward. But is there like a second subliminal message going on in that, like the rest of the season is getting him football plays, toes on grass, and getting him better?
Yeah, I think, I don't, this isn't a team that I think that's like, you hear about teams that are like, we don't mind if we lose. We're not going to be, tanking. They're not going to be tanking necessarily, but that's not the Vikings, I don't think. I think they're still trying to win every game. I just think they probably are going to be realistic from this point forward that, hey, a playoff berth because of the hole they've dug, some of the opportunities they've missed to win games this season may not happen this season. They're going to keep trying to win because, A, that's what they owe everybody. That's what they owe the players in the locker room, the fans. And B, that's good for development too. Winning is good for development. But I think what the rest of the year looks like is maximizing the opportunities to evaluate J.J. McCarthy, to see where he is at, to make sure that going into 2026 what you think you're dealing with. Do you have to bring in a more experienced veteran quarterback as a fallback option? Is he going to take the reins in these next 7 games and tell you, nope, it was a bumpy start, but now he's shown you enough that you know what the plan is for 26. That's the biggest thing. You got to get information. You've got to know what you're dealing with at quarterback for 2026 and beyond.
In your opinion, what do we know now? Enough to make that decision, or
we
no?
don't? I don't think we know. I think we will see the rest of the way, but I don't think we know right now. I think we're looking at a quarterback right now who is very, very we're in an uncertain territory right now. And I think if he keeps playing like this the rest of the year, I think you absolutely have to consider someone more, at least someone to push him competitively, which they really didn't do this year.
Michael Rand, thank you for joining us. Talking to J.J. McCarthy. We'll see what happens next week. We'll see what happens the rest of the season, but it's bumpy right now. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You bet. That's all for us on Breaking the News Plus, Making the News Plus. I just keep rushing it through them like JJ with passers that I'm throwing 10 miles over their head. Okay. We'll see you tomorrow night, 6:30. Take care.